So, what's this session about? So, as I say, we are really excited and delighted that Qualifications Scotland are here with us tonight, to hear about what this new organisation means for children and young people, and indeed parents and carers who are supporting young people as they move into the exam period in 2026. So, we'll be talking about the role of Qualifications Scotland, or they will be talking about that. What the transition from the Scottish Qualifications Authority means for children and young people, how the qualifications will be delivered and assessed going forward, what to expect for the exams in 2026, and how the new organisation will support children and young people during this period of change. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit about us before I hand you over to Claire and Jacqui, in case there's anyone here tonight who are not too familiar with who we are. Correct. We are the only charity and membership organisation for parent groups across Scotland. So we currently have 28 out of the 32 local authorities that pay for membership for parent councils all across Scotland. But for parent councils and those other local authorities, some of them fund their own membership with us. We're all about partnerships in education. We're all about supporting parents and families to be involved, engaged, and have their voices heard in all matters relating to education. We engage with parents and carers on a regular basis, usually through surveys. If you are a member of Connect, you do have access to a number of benefits and supports, particularly in relation to running your parent group. And, we're here to support you in doing that. Okay, now this is me going to move on to the main event, the reason why you're all here tonight. So I'm sure you will all join me in welcoming Jacqui Hill, who's a Senior Learner and Parent Engagement Manager, and Claire Jones, who is a Learner and Parent Engagement Manager. So I'm going to hand over, and as I said, there will be some points for questions as the session continues. So over to you. Thank you.
That's great, Diane. Thanks very much, and good evening, everybody, and thanks so much for coming along this evening and giving up your time. As Diane said, I'm Jacqui Hill, and my colleague Claire Jones are both going to be doing the presentation tonight. We lead on learner and parent engagement for Qualifications Scotland, so we're delighted to be here, and we hope the information that we're going to cover tonight will be useful for you. So I'm going to sound a bit like if way back in the COVID days and those COVID briefings, and the next slide, I'm afraid I'm going to be a wee bit like that because Diane's going to move the slides on for us tonight. So thanks, Diane. So we've got a few things that we're going to cover with you this evening. Just a wee bit about Qualifications Scotland. As you know, that is quite a recent thing, so I'll cover a wee bit about that. There is a Scottish Government Qualifications Reform programme that's at the very early stages, so we'll tell you a bit of information about what that's all about, and then also to give you some information around exam support and where you can get information and guidance around the exams for 2026. And as Diane said, at the end of each section, we'll pause. If you've got any questions in the chat, then we can answer them at the end of each section. Okay, next slide. Thanks, Diane. Okay, so I'm sure you're all aware, we had quite a lot of news coverage about it. The SQA has now become Qualifications Scotland. Next slide. So on the 2nd of February, not all that long ago, we officially became the new awarding body for Scotland, became Qualifications Scotland, and that was created by the Education Scotland Act 2025, which did have a broader piece in there around Education Scotland and the Education Inspectorate as well, but it created Qualifications Scotland to replace SQA. So just a bit of reassurance around all the qualifications that we offered as SQA, we still will as Qualifications Scotland. So that includes national qualifications, higher national qualifications, and a whole host of vocational qualifications that we offer. The 2026 national qualification exams will run just as normal. They start on Wednesday the 22nd of April and end on Tuesday the 2nd of June. and learners will all sit their exams and assessments as planned, as they have done in previous years. Results day this year is Tuesday the 4th of August. And learners, the big difference this year is that the qualification certificates will be issued with the Qualifications Scotland logo, and our new Chief Executive, Nick Page, with his signature on it. But every qualification that learners achieved with SQA still remains valid, absolutely recognised by colleges, universities and employers, and those SQA certificates are also still valid. And I think it's important to say, you've maybe heard in the press, it's just a change of name, and really it's a lot more than that. It's not just Qualifications Scotland is a different organisation. So I'm going to hand over to Claire now, who's going to tell you a bit about that, about how we're going to put learners and educators and our other stakeholders at the heart of our decision making. So over to you, Claire.
Thanks, Jacqui. So yes, this is very much more than just a change of name. So one of the things that we have now got in place is a new board, which consists of our chair, Shirley Rogers, our chief executive, Nick Page, and we have 13 other members, which are actually appointed by the Scottish Government. Some of these members are also practicing teachers and college lecturers, and as part of the new membership, we have got a learner as part of our board now as well. Some of these individuals are also going to help with our new Learner Interest Committee and Teacher and Practitioner Interest Committee, which I'll come on to shortly. But the view of the board is really just to kind of keep a strong focus on the needs and the views of learners and educators, and that's why we're starting to make some of the changes to the membership. The board also makes sure we meet our statutory responsibilities under the Act and deliver the Scottish Government policies and priorities, and that we're using resources, public resources, effectively. We've also got a new Strategic Advisory Council, which is made up of various stakeholder representatives that offers advice to us on an ongoing basis. Next slide, please, Diane. Thank you. So in addition to the new board and the advisory council, we are creating 2 new interest committees. So as part of the Qualifications Scotland, a key focus is to put the voice of learners and educators into our decision making, and these committees will help to do that in a more formal way. The detail of these committees is set out in the Act, which I'll be honest is a very long read, but we're trying to summarise some of the details for you here today. So for the Learner Interest Committee, members will include a range of learners who are studying or have recently studied, so that means within the last year, either an SQA or a Qualifications Scotland qualification. And the Teacher and Practitioner Interest Committee will include teachers, college lecturers and people in teacher training. So recruitment for these committees actually closed yesterday, and we've had a very healthy number of applicants for each committee, which is fantastic news. And I'm also very glad it's not my job to go through them all. But we are aiming to have the committees established before the summer break. We are mindful, obviously, we've got Easter holidays coming up and exams as well, which is why we're here today too. So it's likely the first meeting of these committees may not be until June. It depends on the availability of the members. We also really want to make sure these committees, particularly the Learner Committee, operates in a way that best suits the members and that everyone feels comfortable and respected. So the format for these meetings will also be agreed by the committees first before they kind of start any real work. However, once they are established, one of the first tasks for the committee will be to help us develop 2 new charters. So one for learners and one for educators. Next slide, please, Diane. Thank you. So the Learner Charter will set out what learners, so that's children, young people and adults, should expect from Qualifications Scotland. It will be co-designed with the Interest Committee, as I've mentioned, and also any learners undertaking a Qualifications Scotland qualification. The Act also sets out some specific groups of learners that we must collaborate with to develop the Charter. So these include learners who use British Sign Language, or BSL, they have educational support needs, are care experienced, and come from a range of socio-economic backgrounds. We also do want to engage with parents and carers and anyone else who can represent the interest of learners. There will be some large-scale engagement activity to ensure we hear that wide range of views and that the Charter is fully co-designed from the beginning. And this work will commence, like I say, after the interest committees are established, so likely after the summer break. Next slide, please. Thank you. So obviously we have the Teacher and Parent Interest Committee. We also have the Teacher and Parent Practitioner Charter. This will be co-designed with teachers and practitioners. The Act prescribes that we must collaborate with people providing teaching or training in respect of a Qualifications Scotland qualification. People who are training to be a teacher and people who can represent the interest of teachers and practitioners. Again, a large-scale engagement activity will start after the summer, and it is really important we hear from as many people as possible to help us co-design both these charters. Next slide, please, which I think is a pause for questions. Yeah.
Yep, so I don't see any questions in the chat just now. So I don't know if anybody's got anything just now that they've just thought of in this moment. I don't want to pressurise anybody. There are plenty of opportunities throughout the presentation. So even if you think of a question for this early stage of the presentation, I'm sure Claire and Jacqui will be able to come back to it to answer. So I know it's jam-packed because there's nothing there. I think we can just keep moving on, but I would encourage anybody who does have a question, to use the chat as we continue on. Does that sound okay to use?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
perfect. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview. I mentioned earlier that there is a programme of qualifications reform that's planned over the next few years. So next slide, Diane, thanks. Okay, so we're undertaking a review of our qualifications really to make sure they're fit for purpose. So in terms of national qualifications, we're going to review and reform the qualifications and their assessments. And there's a few areas that we're going to specifically be looking at. So we're working to extend the range of assessment methods that we use within those qualifications at the moment. We're looking at rebalancing assessments. And for example, that means exploring how to reduce reliance on exams. And over the last year, we have actually removed the exam from a few qualifications where it's a very practical based qualification. So we'll be looking at how we can look at that in other qualification areas as well. We're going to be exploring any digital assessment opportunities that can make the whole experience easier for the end user. And we're also going to be looking at how National 5 higher and advanced higher courses could be organised into modules so that we can allow learners to build credit as they progress through the qualification. But as well as looking at the national qualifications, we know it's really important. We've got a really big portfolio, a really broad portfolio of qualifications. So we want to review and streamline and modernise that whole portfolio, including our vocational and technical qualifications, so that they are fit for a 21st century Scotland, and that we are providing clearer pathways between qualifications at different SCQF levels. That's the Scottish Credit and Qualifications Framework, and also across subject areas so that we can really support that progression and lifelong learning. Okay, next slide. So this is a very significant and also a long-term programme of work, and it is part of the wider programme of curriculum and assessment reform, which has been done in collaboration with Qualifications Scotland and the Scottish Government. We really want to ensure that there is alignment and strong progression between the broad general education and the senior phase. And Education Scotland, you might be aware, they're looking at looking at the curriculum improvement cycle. So we're working very closely with them and Scottish Government on all these changes. We'll also make sure that we're making these changes in collaboration with learners and educators and parents and our other stakeholders that we work with, who will be able to have their say. The reformed national courses will be introduced from 2031. I appreciate that sounds a long way away, but I think in terms of the size of the piece of work, a piece of reform that we're doing, and also that we do want to bring everyone involved in the qualifications along with us and give them time to adopt the changes and take on board, and also have their say in all the different proposals. That's why we've put that time scale on it. So the planning for that qualifications reform is underway. Again, there'll be a lot of engagement, and I'm sure we'll be back coming to speak to you through Connect at some points in the future. So lots going to be going on there over the next few years. Okay, so next slide. Yeah, so in terms of getting involved, we really do want to hear your views. Obviously tonight is a good way to do that, and there will be other opportunities, but one other way is to register for our Your Voice panels. And we really want parents, carers, learners and educators to sign up for these Your Voice panels, to allow you to share your experience, to influence decisions regarding our qualifications, assessments and our services. If you do sign up, you'll be invited to participate in surveys, focus groups, interviews, lots of different ways to get involved. So please follow there's a QR code there on the screen. There's also that bottom bullet point there is a link, and you will get sent the slides out after tonight, so you can follow the link. But please also pass that on to anyone else that you think would be interested, to give us their views. It's really important that we really want to try and get that, kind of broad and diverse range of views as possible. So please get involved and tell us what you think. Okay, so we're back to questions now. I wasn't reading them, but I could see that there were some things popping up in the chat. So
yeah. Shall I just start to try and go through some of them then?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll try and do them in order as they've come down. So somebody's saying, and I think this was before you put up the link for the parents and carers to be involved. Someone was asking why are parents not included in the process. That was in relation to the first half. I think maybe linked to the two committees, maybe, or maybe generally. But I know you've just presented that information there on parents and carers to be involved. Is there anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we absolutely do want to hear from parents. Obviously, the Education Act stipulated a learner committee and the practitioner committee, but that is not intended to exclude anybody. And I think obviously we've got the Your Voice panels. We will work with Connect, and we did a few weeks ago, we did a session with the Scottish Assembly of Parents and Carers, which obviously Connect is running that as well. So that was specifically on our corporate plan, asking parents their views on our corporate plan, and we will do much more of that. So it's not that we're absolutely not excluding anybody, but it was in the Education Act that it was those two committees, which I will say there was debate about that in Parliament. There were different views on that, but at the end of the day, that was what was agreed to.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jacqui. So after that, has your direction changed slightly given the change and shift in digital? And then I think there was a follow-up to that about digital assessments exploration has come in for significant criticism due to the harm caused, which is now known. Are you at risk of being out of step with changing time away from digital potential for greater harm, whereby school delivery is determined by exams being moved online?
Well, I mean, the decision hasn't been made to move exams online at this point of time. We do have provision for some learners that where that's a requirement that helps them, and Claire will come on to speak about that in a wee minute about assessment arrangements. You can get access to a digital question paper, which works better for some learners according to their needs. I think it's absolutely something that we need to consider as we move forward. We're not just saying everything's going digital and that's it. We will take on different views. We've also been doing a lot of work around AI as well. We've issued guidance out to schools and colleges around that as well at the moment. So I think there's a whole bit of the Qualifications Reform programme is looking at digital and how we make sure that we're doing the right thing there. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question properly. I'll maybe take that one a wee bit. There's quite a lot in there. I'll maybe take what's one of the ones that we can take away and can come back with an answer to it, Diane, if that's okay.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. There were a couple of questions around that, and I'm just picking up like some concern about digital inclusion and digital poverty, and that are you aware of that and you consider that? So there was a couple of comments around that.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And when we and that obviously that's a broader piece from Scottish Government as well that are looking at that as well. So no, definitely. And when we engage with learners, actually that's always a topic that they are very keen to feed back onto us as well. So no, definitely. Again, this isn't about excluding anybody. This is making sure that everything is absolutely inclusive for all learners, depending on their needs.
Okay, thank you. The two committees at the start, the learner and the teacher committees, someone's asking, will those two collaborate or they sit independent of one another? Well, do you see that they'll come together at some points?
Yes, absolutely. They will work as separate committees, but the intention is that they will also come together on certain key pieces of work as well. I think it does actually say in the legislation that there is the expectation that they will be working together. So absolutely, definitely will be collaborating.
And then I've got, how are you going to ensure that qualifications at SCQF levels 1 to 3 are given same credence as those at levels 5 to 7? There currently seems to be a great imbalance.
Well, the focus tonight is really on kind of National 5 higher and advanced higher, but I think maybe I should have made sure that was in the slide, and I do apologise for that. But we absolutely are looking at all SCQF levels. So we are starting off looking at National 4 and sorry, not in National 4. We're looking at SCQF level 4 and SCQF level 5, but there is a programme to look at as we move further on to look at all different levels, and SCQF levels 1 to 3 are absolutely crucial to to be there and to be the right fit for for those learners. So yeah, that will come a wee bit later in the kind of programme, but we are looking at all SCQF levels.
Okay, thank you. Someone's saying, I don't know if this is school specific, but why is there no curriculum requirement to continue with a second language beyond S2?
I'm afraid that's not within our responsibility. We can't stipulate what qualifications are undertaken, so I couldn't comment on that one, I'm afraid.
Okay. Someone's asking, are there no changes for pupils other than branding prior to 2031?
No, there are. We are currently looking. I think I mentioned earlier that we have taken the exam element out of a few practical based qualifications. That's in place for this year. We are also looking at the assessments for a number of qualifications where, again, we think elements where we have received a lot of feedback and we've got quite a lot of evidence about the changes that need to be made. We're looking to make those over the next 1 to 2 years. But they will, I mean, we are constantly, every year after the exams have finished and certification is finished, all the qualification teams all review how everything went. There are course reports that are put up on the website to say what worked well, what didn't work so well, where could, also commenting on how the learners responded to various things. So there is always that kind of review, and if there are things that we realise that we need to change, we will do that. So it's not like nothing is going to happen for until 2031 and then there'll be a big change. There is a kind of there is a programme of changes going on at the moment, but the bigger qualifications reform piece that's going to happen between now and 2031 is a much broader look at the whole qualification system and how do we ensure that it's fit for purpose and going forward in a kind of modern society. So it's not to say that there'll be no changes. It's kind of just different aspects of it.
Yeah. There's 2 more questions there, so I'm going to do these 2, and then I was going to suggest maybe we should move on, just because I know you've got the exam and the exam support in the next section, and I know that's really critical information, but we will have time to stop at the end for more questions.
Great.
Just to note for the people who are attending as well, that Jacqui and Claire have said that if we have lots of questions and not enough time, that they will still answer the questions, and we will gather them all together and we can send them out to the attendees. So if we can't answer all the questions here, we will certainly answer them and forward them on. But in terms of the last couple of questions, someone has said would like to question dropping the requirement of continuing at MFL to S3, which they think is short-sighted.
Sorry, MFL. Sorry, let me just go up and read that, Diane. MFL.
Yeah, SSR is the person who's written it.
Continuing, dropping the requirement of continue. I'm not quite sure what MFL stands for.
You could, if SR wants to
Somebody could maybe, yeah.
expand in the chat. Or it's about the modern languages. Okay, thanks.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A question about AI. What is the info put out to schools regarding AI that you mentioned?
We can share that. We can share what we've published on our website. We'll follow that up for you and get that shared.
And just a bit of reassurance about safeguarding to ensure the smooth transition to the new exam situation.
Oh, in terms of the rollout, yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that that's why we've put that time scale on it. We're not making any kind of knee-jerk changes or anything, and absolutely any change that we make will be evidence-based, and that's why we're really putting a lot of time and effort into working with the profession and the wider learners and stakeholders to make sure that we're getting it right and taking on all those different views. I mean, it's not to say that everyone, there will be different views, and we will have to, at some point, make decisions based on what we're hearing, and also based on our expertise as an awarding body, and obviously we work with thousands and thousands of appointees who are teachers and lecturers and assessors to help us develop the qualifications and also to carry out all the marking and all our other services that sit around the qualifications. So we're absolutely not working in isolation. As I say, we do have to make decisions at some point, but they will absolutely be based on evidence, and we will be able to explain why we have made the decisions that we have.
Okay. Do you want to continue on the presentation? I've taken a note of the couple of questions that have still to be answered, and we can cover them at the end, because I know if there's some questions around the assessment, and I know that's what's coming up. And I'll take note of the questions that are still to be answered. We'll try to go through them. Just because I know this part is quite critical to what you want to say today. Okay.
Thanks, Diane.
Okay, so yes, for this next section, we are going to be mainly talking about National 5 higher and advanced higher qualifications. Next slide, please, Diane. So one consideration ahead of exams is to ensure that any assessment arrangements that are needed for your child are put in place. So assessment arrangements can be put in place by your school, and it ensures that learners who are disabled or need additional support have an equal chance to show what they know, what they understand, and what they are able to do. If your child has an assessment arrangement for an exam, it will usually be the same as the additional support that they receive in class. Please just kind of bear in mind that it will vary by subject, by level, and by the individual learners as well. So some examples of assessment arrangements include adapted question papers, so that might be larger font, it could be braille, coloured paper, or it could be extra time, or they might require a reader or a scribe in the room with them. If you want to know kind of more about the arrangements, please do speak to your school or to the teacher as soon as possible, and they will be able to discuss the most appropriate arrangement for your child, because they will all be very different and very individual and tailored for separate needs. Next slide, please, Diane. Thank you. So past papers. So this is another sort of piece of support, and I'm sure we can all remember using past papers as resources when we were studying for exams. We still provide past papers along with the marking instructions, which are used by our markers on the website. So the link for the website is there on screen, and the past papers can be accessed from the homepage. So if you just scroll about halfway down, there'll be a little blue box that says past papers. If you click on that, it'll take you straight through to the database, where you can sort of filter and search by subject, by level, by qualification type, and hopefully, as you might remember, past papers are a really good way to help practice timings, to look at how different questions are structured, to help answer different types of questions. And since we include the marking instructions, you can also see what a marker would be looking for in an answer, which is always useful to know. So next slide, and I think I'm going to pass to Jacqui for exceptional circumstances.
Apologies, just couldn't get off mute there for a wee second. Yeah, Claire's saying she remembers doing past papers. I'm so old that I can't actually remember it now. She's young. Yeah. Okay, so exceptional circumstances is a service that some of your learners might have used. So it's exam exceptional circumstances consideration service, which just rolls off the tongue. Yeah, not a great acronym, but it's there, a very, very important service there to support learners if they couldn't attend or complete the exam due to circumstances beyond their control. So that could be a medical issue, a bereavement, or if they were affected during the exam by a significant disruption or other circumstance that has been reported to us by the chief invigilator. So the chief invigilator is the person that's in charge of the exam room and making sure that everything runs to time and that everyone's got the correct papers, etc., collecting all the papers in. So sometimes they'll report if there's been something significant that has happened. Or it could also be that the performance on the day was affected by a personal circumstance or an unplanned incident beyond their control. But I think it is important to note that exam nerves, being distracted or losing concentration are not valid reasons for needing to use the service. Okay, next slide. Thanks, Diane. If you think your child should be using this service, it's really the key message there is to speak to your school as soon as possible after the exam, making sure that you're giving them all the necessary information about the circumstance or the incident. To be eligible for exceptional circumstances, the learner, they must have completed all parts of the course. So if there's a coursework element, which there is in the majority of our courses, so that could be a performance or a portfolio, they must have completed that, and they must also have had an estimated grade submitted to us from the school. If they are eligible, then your school will request the service to us within 10 days of the exam, and permission must be given to the school for them to undertake that request for exceptional circumstances. So the process is that they will then provide evidence to us based on the assessments that have been done throughout the year. So that can be a very wide range of information. It can be prelims, class tests, classwork, performance records, and then our examiners will review that evidence to decide the grade. And that grade could be different from what the estimate that the school submitted was, just as can be the case if people have sat the exam as normal. And then the results will be issued on results day along with everything else. So that's exceptional circumstances. Okay, but as I say, the big message there is speak to your school. Good communication with your school there is really important. Okay, so moving just on now to appeals. So we have a learner direct appeal service, and that opens on results day, which is Tuesday the 4th of August this year. And that service is there for learners to appeal if they're concerned about National 5, higher or advanced higher grade that they've received, and that they feel there may have been a mistake in the marking. The school can also submit the appeal, but if the learner wants to do it, then there's that learner direct service available there. If they do submit an appeal, a senior marker will review all the answers in their marked assessments, and that includes the question paper and the assignments. And they'll check various different things. They'll check that the marks have been given in line with the marking standards and the marking instructions, that all parts of the assessment have actually been marked and that they've been added up correctly, and that the correct result has been entered on our system. And it's important to say that after that review, the grade could stay the same, it could go up, or it could go down. Okay, next slide. We have got a priority appeal service, so that can be where there is a conditional offer for university, college or training, or an employment opportunity that's dependent on a grade. So again, the key message there is speak to the school as soon as possible. The priority appeals must be submitted by school, college or training provider, and we will look for evidence of the educational institution or employer before we'll treat it as a priority appeal. Okay, next slide. You can also, using that learner direct service, submit that appeal on their behalf, but you must get their permission first. If you have more than one child who you are appealing for, then you need to use a different email address for each child. It's just we can't just having it all under one email address. The system can't deal with that, so it needs to be a separate email address. And again, make sure your child understands the grade can stay the same, go up or go down. And if you have put in that appeal in their behalf, they can't then go and appeal separately to that. And then just finally on the next slide, just got some things to think about before using the appeal service. So really think about how is the grade in line with what the estimated grade was that the school had given. Really, really important to have a conversation with the teacher, lecturer or the course leader about that grade and get their view on things as well. And is it unexpected? And that's where we find often that the appeals do come from, where the estimate there's a big difference between the estimate and what's actually come out in the result. You can't appeal if there has been any malpractice, and we'll come on to some of the do's and don'ts around that in a wee minute. If you did have an exceptional circumstance consideration, then you're not entitled to appeal because we've looked at the evidence and we've come to our decision. Or if they received a grade A, because that's the highest grade you can get, so you can't appeal on a grade A. Okay, and I think we're handing back to Claire now. Yep.
Thank you, Jacqui. So we also have a few apps that learners can download to help them prepare for their exams and for their revision. So the first app we have is My Exams, which lets learners create their own personal timetable, view the exam schedule, and they can add their own notes as they go. We've also got My Study Plan, where learners can create the customised study plan based around their exam dates, and it can help them to organise their revision accordingly. And lastly, we have My Qualifications. Now, this has replaced My SQA, which some of you may have heard of. So in here, learners can sign up to receive the results by text and or by email rather than waiting for the post to arrive. But I would like to add sort of a general reminder for everybody that if you have moved house or if you have changed address, please update your school, and they will in turn update us. One of the biggest reasons that learners don't receive a certificate in the post on results day is because it's an old address that's been held in the system. So please make sure it's up to date with your school, and if you have moved, if you can get in touch and make sure that the details are correct, please. Next slide, Diane, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to run through some of the exam do's and don'ts. Now, some of these, I'll be honest, it might not seem too different to when we perhaps last sat exams, but it's always a good reminder for your learners at home. So for the exam do's, try to arrive at least 10 minutes before the exam starts. That way no one is rushing around last minute, and you don't want that ahead of an exam. Please bring the right equipment for that exam. So that's blue or black pens, and check it's the correct exam paper that they're sitting in front of when they're in that exam hall too. Your learners will need to write their name, their Scottish Candidate Number or SCN, and the name of their school on every piece of work paper that they use during that exam. Please write legibly and cross out any rough work. That's an old rule, but it does still apply today. And lastly, wait for the invigilator to collect any exam papers before they leave. So over in the don'ts column, don't take prohibited items into the exam hall. So these will include things like mobile phones, earbuds, tablets, extra notes, pencil cases. Calculators and dictionaries are only allowed in for certain exams as well. If you are buying stationery for your learners, please don't buy gel pens. For the exams, the ink can actually fade. So just stick to good old-fashioned biro. That's your best bet. And please remind your children not to take any exam papers and materials out of the exam hall. They all have to get handed in. And please don't write anything abusive or rude on the papers. They also can't get someone else to sit the exam for them. So that means none of you parents can go sneaking in and do it for them or send in an older sibling. We will spot it. And I'll end in another classic. So don't try and copy or share work with anyone else. Next slide, please, Diane.
Okay, so just finally, I feel as if we've thrown a lot of information at you, but hopefully you find it useful. But just finally to say, obviously the focus tonight has been on National 5, Higher and Advanced Higher and exams for this session. But I think it is really important to highlight that 2025 saw record numbers of vocational and technical qualification awards resulted on results day, and that includes things like Skills for Work Awards, National Certificates, and National Progression Awards. So we've got a really diverse range of qualifications available in the vocational and technical area. And you'll see there, we've got Tegan and Maya from Dunbar Grammar School, totally smashing it with their barista skills, doing their barista skills award in the school, brewing up a lovely cuppa. Now I'm not a coffee drinker, but I do get quite envious when I go into schools, and quite a lot of them have got wee barista stations set up because they're undertaking that qualification. So a really useful one for young people to take forward when they maybe go into part-time work if they move on to college or university. We've also got other things like a personal finance award, which again, I think I would have really benefited that when I went to university. That would have been good. And also we've got leadership qualifications, but those really are the tip of the iceberg. We've got a really diverse range of qualifications available at all SCQF levels. So please speak to your school about the vocational qualifications they offer. I know a lot of them do highlight those to parents when your learners are making their qualification choices and things. So speak to your school about it. Okay, and I think that is us moving on to our last. So just before we kind of finish with the last lot of questions, can I just, on behalf of Claire and I, just say thank you very much for coming along tonight and participating, and giving up your precious time. I really do hope you have found it useful. So please make sure you give us your feedback, good, bad, and ugly, in the evaluation, please. And I think we're going to just finish off. We've got some time just to have a look at some of the other questions that have been asked, Diane.
Yeah. So there is quite a few questions, and we're due to finish at 9 o'clock. And I know people will start to drop off at 9 o'clock, so we'll try and get through as much as we can.
Okay.
If there are a number of outstanding ones that feel really important to answer, then we'll try and get those answered and sent out to the people
Definitely.
needed. But I'll just try and work through then. So some people were in late and had missed, I think, some of the start of the information. So someone was asking questions about the change in examination patterns. Does the exam pattern change from which class onwards, or will you be sharing the change in examination pattern after the meeting?
So in terms for 2026, it's kind of business as usual. But if we are changed, I don't know if the person could maybe just clarify in the chat. Are you meaning in terms of the format of the exam timetable, or that kind of more broader piece in terms of qualifications reform? In terms of the exam timetable, that will run. Obviously, there are changes that we make to the exam timetable every year. We've got a limited amount of time in which to deliver all the exams, and we do take on board. We've got a timetable advisory group that we do take on board feedback from, if the format is changed for the exam. Okay. So that will be part of qualifications reform. As I said earlier, I don't know if you missed it when you came in. we have made some changes to the exams, taking some of the practical based subjects, taking the exam based element out of the exam. And there are some other qualification areas where we're looking to make some other changes in. But in terms of the bigger change, in terms of the bigger qualification reform piece, absolutely there will be a big lead-in time to any changes that we make there around the format of the exam.
Okay, thank you. Someone just made a comment about past papers, especially like the COVID years meant there was no past papers, and about I suppose the availability of more past papers. That was a comment, a suggestion. Someone's asking, will the new charter include an onus in schools to provide more information and transparency on policy and procedure for provision of assessment arrangements?
So the charter really is about our relationship with learners and educators, and how they want to interact with us and what their expectations are of us. In terms of assessment arrangements, we've got an assessment arrangement section on our website that really gives all the information. We are very open and transparent with all the information that we provide to our schools and colleges and training providers is on our website to see. So the charters are, as I say, more about our relationship with our learners and practitioners, and not about what our expectations of a school would be necessarily, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm just, because I know there's 5 minutes to go, so I'm just going to keep rattling through these pages now. Will the new appeals process be in place for 2026? Someone thinks it looks quite different to what they were told happened previously.
No, it's the same appeals process that we've had for a long number of years. There was a different process put in place during COVID because exams were cancelled, and we had different processes there. But the appeals process that we're using now has, apart from COVID, has been in place since 2014. The Learner Direct piece, the Learner Direct service is a relatively new thing as well. It used to always have to come through the school. But in terms of the actual marking review process, that has been in place for quite a long period of time.
I think Tony's followed up there just with that comment. I don't know if you can see the current
No,
appeals.
it's not just it does check the addition of marks and checks that all the marks have been included, but a senior marker also carries out a review of of all aspects of the paper, so whether coursework and exam paper, to make sure that it is against the marking standards. So it's not just the addition of marks as well, it is a marking review that we undertake as well.
Okay, thanks. There's a couple of questions here. There's some that are quite specific, but I think there's a broad theme around young people with additional support needs. So I think some young person maybe experienced that she didn't, or she or he didn't have access to all the information or the pack that was required, considering their additional support needs. Sorry if I'm misrepresenting this, I'm just trying to summarise it. And I think there's things like, for example, a child with Tourette syndrome, like how are children with, I suppose, the whole spectrum of different needs that children will have sitting exams, like how is that accommodated in that exam situation and supported? And I suppose in terms of perhaps things that have gone wrong for some children, how's how is there a way to feed that back, or is there an ESN focus on the what you are doing going forwards?
Yeah, so in terms of additional support needs, I think again it's about communication with the school. You know, we don't know your learners. You know your learner better than anyone, and obviously the school knows them as well. So we rely on the school to make those requests for assessment arrangements that are required. We also audit a number. We take a sample of schools every year and we audit them on their assessment arrangements process and how it's implemented as well. So we do have a quality assurance process that looks at that as well. And we do also have we've got an assessment arrangements team who are very much on hand to be able to give advice, because obviously they see the full kind of spectrum of requests that come, and they also work with other experts in that area. So it's, as I say, it's really about if you think that you're not getting the provisions put in place for your child, then really your first stop is to have that conversation with the school in the first instance, and then take it from there. But the earlier you can have those conversations, the better.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm going to draw it to the end, draw a line to it now because it is 9 o'clock and I know people have started to drop off already. So I'm just going to say thank you so much, Jacqui and Claire, for coming along. There's lots of new information. The PowerPoint presentation will be sent to everyone who attended this evening. So there is lots of information there. There are links within the PDF presentation that's coming out that will take you to the website, and there's lots of information there. So someone's asking about which website. We've put the link up there just now. So I mean, there's lots to come, you know, and that's what we're hearing from Claire and Jacqui, and perhaps there's another session for us in the future to help and support parents and carers as we kind of go forward with these changes. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming along tonight. Thanks to all the parents and carers who came along and asked all the questions. Sorry we didn't manage to get through all of them, but we will have a look at them, pull them together, and we'll ask Jacqui and Claire to have a look at some of those questions. We'll try and put some answers back together so that everyone feels like they've got the answers to those sort of key ones about exams and the new Qualifications Scotland, what that means in terms of the organisation. But yeah, so just to say thank you so much everyone for coming along tonight. There's a wee quick poll just come up on the screen just now. It's just 3 questions through 3 seconds, just to give some immediate feedback. If you want to give some more detailed feedback, you can use that evaluation form which Jacqui and Claire has asked. You know, especially around if there are specific, you know, information sessions or more information coming out for parents and carers that might be helpful. That will be useful for both us here at Connect and for Jacqui and Claire to see. But otherwise, I'm going to wish everybody a good night. As I say, thanks so much for coming along. We'll see what we can do with those unanswered questions. We'll try and get some information sent off to you. But thanks again. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.